Well, hello. Happy Wednesday to you. After a week off, we are back with the Unboring Wedding Show live. Good to see so many beautiful people here in the chat joining us. Some familiar faces, some people who have been away for a little while that it's about time we see back here. Nudge, nudge, looking at you, Mitzi. So good to see you. Thanks for joining today. I am looking forward to getting into it on an FAQ topic that I do cover briefly in Unboring Wedding Academy, but I kind of want to get right into the weeds here on some of the rationale around hey, when a ceremony is really fun and you ask your couple questions to build their love story and tell their love story. What are some like no go off topics? How do we know if it's going to play funny or if it's going to play really uncomfortable? Like you crossed the line, you made someone feel bad, which of course you never want to do unless you're a total jerk. But none of you here are jerks, of course. And as wedding officiants, I think we do want to walk that line. To be honest, it's a great part of being a professional wedding officiant. If you're a friend or relative, though, I want you to think about all of the worst wedding reception speeches you've ever heard where people are groaning or covering their faces. I mean, it does happen, right? Where the buddy of the bride gets up and starts saying some things that are making people feel really uncomfortable. Hey, it's not up to me to say whether or not that's appropriate or should be done. What I am going to say is the wedding ceremony is not the place for it, and the officiant is not the person to do it. But we don't want a super dry, kind of crusty, boring as watching paint on the wall kind of ceremony either. A lot of humor, a lot of the secret of humor, the essence of humor is poking fun. And so today, basically, I want to give you five principles, five guidelines, five instances for kind of risky humor, which, humor has to be, where we are not making people feel uncomfortable. I have criteria around, does this fit into one of these categories? If it does, we can use it. Then I'll give you five no goes, five things that I will not talk about or mention or allude to in the love story or in the section where I talk about what the couples love about each other. If you've heard me talk before, if you're a member of Unboring Wedding Academy, you know we call this the love abouts. Or in what the friends and family have sent me about the couple. Okay, so really, I want to talk to you about how do you walk that line in your wedding officiant speech and in general in the wedding ceremony on how to make it funny and how to know what to use, but also more importantly, how to know what not to use so that you don't make anybody cringe. Like I say, save the cringing for the wedding reception when you're off the hook and it's not your responsibility. But the wedding ceremony, I would say, is not the place for cringe. It's the place for buoyant humor, gentle, fun poking where you get people laughing, and that is okay. Humor is risky, though. So I can't wait to share with you those five and five, and then finish with kind of like a North Star guiding principle that I think you can keep in your mind as you work through these things that I certainly use in my gentle teasing and poking fun and having fun with the couple that sets that established that atmosphere and that tone for a really great unboring wedding that makes sure I keep getting asked back, but sometimes by the same people, the friends and family. And I know some of you have even married the same couples a couple times, which I never have. All my couples, as far as I know, have no, I can't even say that. Some have broken up, but I've never been asked to officiate for the same person twice, but I have heard of that happening. What I mean is typically wedding party people, friends and family, guests in the seats, they often ask me to officiate their weddings. And so people have seen me, especially in New Brunswick, which is a smaller province. People have seen me officiate over and over and over and over, and I kind of do the same thing every time. Of course, the love story is different, but that feeling of like, hey, we're having fun. It's okay to poke fun. And one of the greatest compliments I think you can get as a wedding officiant, I get these in all my reviews. You can go check them out on Google from my couples, is everyone thought that Mark was a longtime friend that they hadn't met. So it usually, knocks them over with a feather when friends and family learn this guy is a hired vendor. How do we get there? Well, of course, there's a whole strategy that I teach around meeting the couple in the chemistry check and doing the workshop together and having the rehearsal. By the time we've had those multiple times together, we are getting more comfortable with each other. But at the same time, that poking fun, I think, that I want to share with you today and unpack with you kind of the strategy around how to do that really is helpful and goes a long way, whether you're a first time friend or relative who doesn't want to cross the line, or a pro who's building a business and wants to be asked to do this again and again. That is a great segue into some of the comments I saw off the top here. I believe Mike and Sabrina were among the first people here today. Mike said he was here 87 minutes ahead of time. Sabrina must not have seen that because she came in and tagged the wall and said she was first. I'll let you duke that out, Sabrina and Mike. But you did have a great conversation about your weekend and what's going on. I am so thrilled to see that Sabrina, next two weekends, weddings, workshop this Friday for one of them, which is really amazing. I'm wondering if your wedding workshop, I have to call this out, Sabrina. I wonder if your wedding workshop for that you have this Friday is for one of those two weddings. It can't be, right? Because as you know, I teach, have the wedding workshop 4 to 6 weeks ahead of time. But I know sometimes a couple will ask you to officiate like with 2-3 weeks to go. And you're not going to turn that down. If you're not inclined to turn it down, you want to book as many weddings as you can. Sometimes you got to squeeze it in quickly. So, Sabrina, I'm wondering if you've got some major cramming to do. If you have a workshop, which is what we call the ceremony planning session. Sabrina is a member of Unboring Wedding Academy. And so we kind of have this vernacular that we both understand. She's doing her ceremony planning session with a couple this Friday. But I wonder if it's for one of those couples coming up on the next couple of weekends. But look at Mike. I got 3 weddings this week, workshop Tuesday, 2 weddings next Friday. Holy cow, Mike is busy. Another member of Unboring Wedding Academy. Hey, getting this training makes her real busy. That's why I laugh at people who come inside the course, learn how to do it with the style and system that I teach and that you all use if you're a member, but they say they're only going to officiate one time and never again. I say good luck with that because they get up there, they crush it, everybody loves it. And again, if there's 100 guests, 200 guests, you're going to get asked to do it again. It's not hard when you're a pro using the Unboring Wedding style and system for people to want you to officiate their wedding. And really, this is on topic because that is what we're talking about today. The fun, buoyant atmosphere, never crossing a line, but making sure you're creating that really humorous atmosphere as well. Scott is here. Good to see you from Bellingham, Washington, which I'm learning is the city of subdued excitement, which is excellent. So hometown pride with an asterisk there. Love that. Claire is here and says good morning from beautiful Vancouver Island. You're excited to tune in and get involved for your first upcoming wedding in June. Good to see you. I did get a comment on a live video earlier that said, oh my gosh, something about this guy's not genuine and he took way too long to get to the point. I got to say, this is what we do here, right? Like I'm going to get to the point. And when you watch one of my produced YouTube videos, I get to the point. But I'm sorry, I'm not going to apologize. I'm sorry, I'm not going to apologize. That was helplessly Canadian, I think. I'm not going to apologize, sorry, not sorry, for hanging out with you and taking a little while to get to the point. And I know that's why some people straggle in. They know, oh my gosh, Mark's not really going to get to it until 10 after, a quarter after. But I love seeing what's going on in your world. Jerry's here from Electric City with the weather report. Oh man, today is gorgeous here. I mean, I went out for my 5K run this morning, all bundled up. And like by the middle of my driveway, I was like throwing stuff in my car. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so in like winter mode. I was wearing way too much and it all ended up in the car. And I went on a glorious run without all those layers on. So spring is springing all over the place, even in the frigid Canadian North, friends. You'll be happy to know. How is it in Trumbull, Connecticut, Paul? And really looking forward to this topic. That's good. I'm glad. And like I say, this is an FAQ that I deal with briefly in the course as part of one of the 8 steps, one of the 8 points for the rubric. If you're a member, you will see me briefly touch on it in stage 4 of the course, where I give you all the story writing tips, tricks, and secrets. I am in the middle right now of working, oh my gosh, like 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, cutting video, shooting video, revamping the whole course around efficiently. And so it's all top of my mind. And I get to see, what is it that I said back in 2021 when I had less gray hair and was more baby faced? But soon we'll have the new course up and running, where we'll have efficiently instead of all the Google tools, and where I will look much older. So that's fair. Mitzi, so glad to see you here. Live from the overcast Los Angeles. It is good to see you. I know it's been a while, and we missed you. So glad you're here. Deb is here from Stouffville, which is awesome. I lived in the GTA, so Stouffville was definitely a place where I had lots of friends and hung out and knew some people there, and really great to see you representing Stouffville here. Bill is here from Lake Tahoe, and Julie from Saudi Arabia. That is awesome. Are you on vacation? I think you're I see your name around. I'm a huge F1 fan, so of course I feel like I know some things about Saudi Arabia. My 10-year-old and I and my wife we're big F1 fans, so it's fun to kind of see the venues, and anytime there's a race at a venue like in Saudi Arabia, I dive into kind of the geography, the geopolitics, and share that with the family. Make it educational, Elaine is here. Good to see you. Where in the Isle of Wight, it's beautiful and sunny and fabulous. So across the Atlantic is similar to here. That's great. Tamara from Loves Park. And Bruce is here from Denver, delivering food to seniors. Wow. So keep us in your ear, but make sure you get that food out. You're doing God's work there, Bruce. So that's awesome. I love hearing that. Probably Meals on Wheels or something like that. And I love hearing that you're helping the community like that. As you know, I have to take 1 month off in terms of the Unboring Wedding Show live, because I'm on a board for a nonprofit that runs a shelter and a food kitchen and stuff here in the town that I live in. This stuff is kind of a top priority for me. So I love, Bruce, to hear that you're contributing to the community that way. Jerry says, many years ago when I was best man, my grandpa told me, give your speech like her parents are in the front row. That's amazing. And you know what? A lot of times they are. Jerry, they're literally sitting right there. That same idea works when we're officiating. Yeah, like I say, I want to give you my 5. This is risky, but it's decent. And my 5, nope, this crosses one of those 5 boundaries, one of those 5 lines. I will not say that. And obviously the parents in the front row, obviously we're thinking things of a sexual nature. Yeah, that's one of the things. But that's not even real. And some of those things are really obvious, right? But there are others too, where you just don't want to make the person feel bad about themselves. That comes to kind of how I want to close this out today, with like I say, that guiding principle of what we're doing and how we want to make people feel when we're officiating. Yeah, this is key, actually, Jerry. We're the only ones holding the mic. All right, I'm going to throw back to your comment when we're wrapping up, because you really put your finger on it there. Paul says, I've officiated for all my friends that I was in their first wedding. That's awesome. You're kind of on the tour. That's great. And Mitzi says, I get a similar comment. Mitzi was like a long lost aunt we hadn't seen since we were born. It was like she knew us both. I have no doubt that is absolutely awesome. You're very effervescent, Mitzi. I've gotten to meet you in person, and I don't know, would I call you an aunt? We're too close in age for that, right? All right. So, Jennifer is in the house. She is our Unboring Wedding Ops Manager. As you know, if you ask a question, typically Jen will get there first, unless it's, really technically ceremony related. But Jen is here. Good to see you, Jen. Nancy from cool and dreary Brooklyn. Oh, no, I do not like hearing that. As I've said, here on the ocean, on the far east coast, anything from the west is hitting us the next day. So thanks for the heads up, Nancy. Now I know tomorrow's going to be a miserable day to make up for today's glorious weather. Roger's here from Vancouver, BC. Good to see you. F1 right up the road in Austin. I know, Sabrina. And my family and I talk about if we're going to go see a race, where should we go see it? I mean, it's really painful that when I go to Wedding MBA in Vegas in November, there you go, Mike, take your shot. Bingo card, I just said it. They're setting up the track, and it's always like the week later. Now, I can't hang out in Vegas for a whole extra week, but to get that close, to get a sniff. But anyway, we've talked about going to Barcelona or somewhere like that to take in F1. Eventually, it's on the bucket list with the family. Patrick is here from Grand Rapids, and I know, Patrick, that I just shot your welcome video. You are inside Unboring Wedding Academy, so welcome to you. Love that you're here. Ray is here from Loma Linda, California. James, newbie, wishing to learn more about you before pulling the trigger on the program. All right, James, well, there you go. Cross-examine away. Ask questions in the chat. Lots of members are here. I think, well, what can I say more than the guarantee? When you follow this style and system, you are absolutely going to crush it. And like I say, you are going to have a really hard time only doing it once, because it's a style, it's a system, it's a strategy, it's an A to Z that you just need to follow and deploy, and people absolutely love it. And so welcome, but I love that you're doing your due diligence, and I'm really glad you're here today. Samuel checking in, good to see you. Let's get to the heart of it here. It is 1:15 p.m. my time, 12:15, 9:15 maybe where you're from, or on the Isle of Wight much later than that. But I want to talk to you about, like I say, the ingredients that make humor so effective, and what makes us effective as officiants who are facilitating the couple's vision, but also facilitating a really good time. Friends, wedding crowds can be intimidating. I do hear this from people who find me, maybe someone like James, who's like not all in yet, but thinks about stepping in front of a wedding crowd. And maybe you're used to more traditional ceremonies where, you know, the vicar is officiating and doesn't even try to make it fun. Or you've been to weddings where it's a friend or relative and like they start with the flop sweat immediately with like inappropriate jokes, or, you know, hey, everybody, it's my first time. I'm really nervous. Please go easy on me, which, hey, you know, here's a tip for you. Never, ever say that when it's your first time doing something. People smell blood in the water. They start to pity you. They start to feel nervous for you. You never want to do that. I'm a member of the Rotary Club, and I just started doing the radio bingo Monday nights for a local radio station here. And I was nervous the first time. It was like a couple months ago, fairly recent, where, you know, bingo calling, the machine, I'm live on the air. There's a whole bunch of things to do. But I did not. I followed my own advice for officiating. I did not say, hey, everybody, my name's Mark. You know, you don't recognize my voice because this is my first time calling bingo. I mean, I'm not a big bingo player, so I didn't really know what I was doing. But of course, I had studied the resources and really tried to get to the bottom of how to flow really well. I had all the ads I was going to read, but I did not say, it is my first time. You know, cross my fingers. Here goes nothing. Hope it goes well. No. I sat there and acted like I had been doing this for 20 years. You could call that fake it till you make it. I just call it being confident. And so even when you do make a mistake, as with officiating, you laugh it off. This past Monday, I was doing it again. And, you know, a couple of things happened. I drew the N ball when you're not supposed to draw an N and I just kind of laughed it off. And that's exactly how we need to officiate weddings. So, yeah. That is how we need to get up there and project as officiants. So, like I say, I want to talk to you about, first of all, teasing. Okay, so now teasing is obviously one of those words that will evoke all kinds of feelings in people. I think of my two kids who are close in age and who are really best friends, but you know, the teasing can cross lines. One is 10, one is 12, and all their lives. You know, what is a friendly tease? I tease my kids, they tease me. But when do you cross the line with your kids or vice versa? Oh, geez, that hurt you. That can happen. And people who have been teased mercilessly, that's why I say it can be kind of a triggering word. If I say, oh, teasing's okay. Well, no, it isn't always okay. So I would say this, when I start a wedding, I almost always tease the groom if it's a groom. If it's two brides, I'm going to say I don't tend to tease brides myself. There is a dynamic that I never want to like overshadow the groom or that kind of thing or seem over familiar with the bride. It just would make me feel uncomfortable. Maybe if you are an anti type, as Mitzi already alluded to, maybe she could get away with teasing both. Just so there's going to be dynamics about maybe your age, your gender, your race, things like that. This is why it's so difficult to talk about humor. We're not going to unpack all of the ingredients of humor here, but we will when I move into kind of my five guiding my filter, my 5 points that I say if this fits into this category, it's okay. Let me tell you how I do tease the groom. You can use it if you'd like. When the groom is up with me in opening remarks, and this is important, I would never say this if the groom weren't in the room. So that should give you a hint about humor or, when it works, when it doesn't work. When the groom is there with me, and so kind of you can start to kind of unpack this. When it's time to announce whether or not guests can take photos, my go-to laugh right after the ceremony hasn't started yet, right? The opening remarks, if you join the Unboring Wedding Academy style and system, you know that I talk about getting up there, breaking the ice with guests. I've done lives on this. There's stuff on my YouTube channel if you poke around. Opening remarks, breaking the ice. You get up there and you say, "Good afternoon, everyone." And of course, no one says anything back. And you say so. This is where you kind of poke fun with the guests. And you don't this is easy. You're not a stand-up comic who's going to be roasting the guest. You're going to say something like, "I don't know if you're aware, but we have this whole place to ourselves. We can be as rowdy as we want." So see how that like fit into a category where like we're going to talk about that in the 5 criteria. I'm just kind of telling them, "Hey, did you know that we can make noise? Good afternoon." Then they're cheering. I say, "Are you ready to get these two hitched?" etc. Now, so I break the ice that way. But one thing I really like to do, like I say, is tease the groom. I'm typically very familiar with the groom by this point because of those meetings we've had as a professional. Of course, if you are a dad of the bride and you're kind of teasing the groom, I think that'll be seen as very affectionate. But you're not teasing in a tear down way. This is where tear down teasing will make people go, "Ooh." Teasing in a complimentary way, and you'll see what I mean here, is a green light. It makes people laugh. It makes people feel good. It even makes the person that we are joking about feel good. So I always say, I'm reading the room, but typically this is how I'll break the ice, is whether or not people can take photos is kind of the same joke. It's kind of an A side, B side of the same joke. So if the couple have said no photos, then I say, "All right, so just a couple things for you to know as we begin here. The bride and groom have asked that we not take photos." Now, I do see some of you have your cameras out, and often they're like literally taking film or video while I say that. And I say, that's fine. In fact, if you don't have them out, you can right now. Consider this your 10-second warning. I got a few more things to say. To take pictures of Greg here. I mean, he really cleaned up nice today. He looks great, doesn't he? And so people, will clap and laugh and stuff like that. And usually he laughs. If I'm very familiar with Greg or I know he's really a dressed down kind of guy, I will go a little further and say something like, "And I saw him yesterday at the rehearsal, and today he doesn't even look like the same guy." So, and I'm sure a lot of you know that, and that'll get people laughing. Some grooms look completely different on their wedding day. They've completely shaved or something like that. So, they've gotten a haircut. So if that's the case, that kind of fits into my category of always saying what is happening, if something goes wrong. But it's true that if the groom really cleaned up, whether or not he did, if he looks the exact same, it still works. He really cleaned up real nice today for this. People laugh. They'll take pictures of him and he'll blush and laugh. So that's kind of a gentle tease, but do you see how I'm talking about how good he looks? And that's what makes it funny. So I'm going to say that can be like one of your criteria when you're thinking about joking and teasing on the wedding day. you can be building the person up and it will be funny. People will laugh. Okay, so that's how I tease the groom when you are not allowed to take photos. Another thing that I do though is I do the same joke even if they can take photos. So I'll share that with you too. You can use it. All this is plagiarizable because again, I've done these things hundreds of times. Literally, like I said, the same joke at most weddings I do, and people laugh just as hard because it's kind of like the McDonald'sization of weddings. If people love it, they hire me knowing that I'm going to do this kind of thing. Of course, the story is going to be different. So the real heart and meat of the ceremony is going to be different. Of course, if the couple have added elements that are different, it's not going to be carbon copy. But I do the same in terms of, closing remarks, opening remarks. So here's what I say for opening remarks when the couple has said they can take photos. Similar joke where I say, all right, so the couple have said that you may take photos today, but I just want to remind you, and I get real serious here, so people lean in. I do want to remind you, though, friends, when you are taking photos, just remember that Stacy is absolutely gorgeous. She's back there. Wait till you see her. She looks amazing. But just don't forget that Greg is also here today. He looks really great as well. People always laugh. They love that line because I'm telling them, like, don't forget there is a groom. And he also looks good, right? So do you see how I'm kind of building him up? But again, breaking the ice and acknowledging that everyone's here. Can't wait for Stacy to come out, or the bride, whoever it is. And in a same-sex wedding, I'll probably say the same thing, that the person, the marrier we can't see, looks fantastic. Don't forget he's here as well. Okay, so that always works. That's kind of building up the humor. It's positive humor, not negative humor. And I do also want to emphasize that. Well, I kind of lost my train of thought there. We're live. It'll come back to me. That really works. That I'm building up the person and I'm not tearing them down. I want to talk about this one time where I accidentally tore down grandma when I meant to build her up, and so it was inadvertent. And that is what I want to talk to you about here today. I would never do this, but I learned front row, so to speak. It came out of my mouth where part of the couple's love story was talking about how it was grandma's 80th birthday party. And actually, he proposed at grandma's 80th birthday party. So it was a real integral part of their 3-act love story. And so I said, she was sitting in the front row, and I said, and there, everybody shows up. It's grandma's birthday party. I won't say the number. Okay, I will. It's 80. And people kind of clapped. And I said, and this was years and years ago. And obviously I meant to I meant to say it was days ago. Like, I wanted people to think, I know she doesn't look a day over 80. But of course, by saying the opposite thing, I made it sound like, look at her. She looks really old. It was off the cuff. It was like a wrong math or something in my head. Like, say this thing to make it seem like it just happened yesterday. And I said that instead. And I saw her like roll her eyes and kind of harumph. And I actually had to apologize after to her, to the couple. They, it was nothing. But I was like, no, I was insinuating that grandma was really old when I meant to say she doesn't look a day over 80, actually. So that was one of those things where it's like, oh man, I got to feel accidentally what it would be like to make a derogatory tease. I was teasing grandma, but I meant to say, I know she doesn't look a day over 80. This happened yesterday is what I should have said. But instead I said it was years ago. It doesn't feel good to tear somebody down, whether it's intentional or whether it's not intentional. And so, like I say, I wanted to use my opening tease that you can use as an example. Thank you, Tamara. Yikes. That's exactly the email I sent out to everybody on my list. Haha or yikes. And I was mortified. I'm mortified right now. I'm blushing. Yikes, indeed. You got to be careful when you are making off-the-cuff humor. to make sure your mouth is working properly. So here now, before we move into the five and the five, and then I want to actually finish with some real stories. My browser has a whole bunch of stories open from real love stories I've used. I know it's already half an hour in, so we'll try to get there. I want to show you some examples after we go through the criteria of the lines that I will not cross. Maybe something that a couple sent me, and this is really the heart of it, right? Is couples are going to tell you things that happen in their love story. The couples are jokey with each other, familiar with each other, live with each other, have kids with each other, and so sometimes they're going to send you things that you're like, I don't know if I should say that in public. As was it Paul who said, like, you got to think of all the people there, you got to think of sensibilities, et cetera, et cetera. So here's the five things. I'd love to hear from you. If you have kind of general criteria of things that you think are okay but things that are not okay. So let's start with the things where we're getting into that teasiness that I just gave you an example of, kind of opening remarks. I teased the groom about how good he looks. I'm teasing the guests a little bit about, like, hey, don't forget that this person is here. So the very first thing that I want to say in terms of what I think is okay and what makes things funny is miscommunication. So in the story, if something is not going well, somebody is not getting something in the love story, if it's because the couple are miscommunicating, and you get that in the age of apps, Tinder or Bumble or that kind of thing, where they're miscommunicating back and forth, and one like thinks the other person might be a little bit daft or dense, but it's only because it's very obvious that they are miscommunicating. I would say that that's okay, right? Miscommunicating is okay. Now, you've gone too far when, and you can push that again. I'll talk to you about the five things that I think are no-goes to me in contrast with this. But I think when the couple are, that's an element of humor, right? When you're watching a sitcom or something, if you know something that the main character doesn't know, you're going to laugh. And these moments in love stories where one person is not understanding the other person or not getting the other person, or like, are you not with it? But it's obvious, kind of part of the joke, where the person is okay. It's just a miscommunication. That's actually really funny. That's one of those elements of humor that you want to lean into. So I would say miscommunication is definitely an okay. You just got to be careful how you've not to veer too far to the other side. The other thing I would say is number two, mistakes. Mistakes are okay. Mistakes that anybody would make, I think, are okay to bring up. Mistakes that anybody would make. Part of my love story is how when I was dating my wife, Naomi, we're 20-year anniversary this year, our first date, when the big cups hit the table, we were dating in university, we were at a diner, and she knocked her drink all over me in my lap. That is like one of those kind of, you could say, klutzy accidents. We tell this story to friends or people who just meet us. How did you get together? She dumped her whole drink on me. The next date we had, she was talking, using her hands, and she actually moved her hand this way and dumped her whole drink on herself. And then the next date, believe it or not, this is hard to believe, the server came with our drinks on the platter, and she was talking and bumped the tray, and the server, she spilled the drinks on the server's tray. This, again, accidents that can happen to anybody. No one is hurt by this. And so, no one's feelings are going to be hurt. Naomi's feelings aren't hurt by that story. It's really funny. It is one of those moments where you're just like, oh my gosh. But it's not like inappropriate kind of thing. So a lot of those kind of klutzy moments you will see in stories. I think they're really funny. I think they really work. I'm going to pause here. The thing that I wanted to say and follow up in the opening remarks about the photos with the groom, the way that I tease the groom, that's what I wanted to say, is can you see now why I wouldn't really make that joke without the groom there? It wouldn't be as funny if I said he cleaned up really nice today and he wasn't in the room. It would change the tone of it somehow. Also, if I say, well, remember he's here, and he's not here to hear that joke, it changes the tone of it, right? So again, it's hard to put your finger on it unless you've written a PhD thesis on what makes humor work. But yeah, that's one thing that I wanted to emphasize before I move on. We're at point two of what I think is okay in terms of humor. But when the person is there laughing along with it, it's almost like they are vetting it. Like them being there makes it okay. Us being able to see their reaction. It doesn't feel like gossip or like weird, mean sniping at somebody when they're not in the room, when they're right there. So it does make a difference if they're there. When I make those opening remarks uh, alone, then I don't. Then I just don't make those jokes. So that is a big difference. Okay, so we've talked about how miscommunication is often funny. Even if one member thinks the other is like a little bit daft or something, it's only because it's a miscommunication. It'll come to light in the story, or we already know that the person is actually vindicated. Like, no, it's just because they're not understanding each other. The second thing is mistakes anybody would make. The third, I think, again, is accidents that can happen to anyone. That's really important. That could be literally a car accident. But it could be something more serious or unrelated to vehicles, but like making an accident that could happen to anyone, I think is funny as long as it doesn't veer into real negligence or carelessness that would make people feel like that's man, what you did there is really not okay, right? So obviously accidents that happen to somebody, if nobody is hurt, are going to be funny. If part of their love story is an accident, I've told these, like an accident where the person is in traction in a hospital bed and it was one of the most difficult periods of their lives, and that's how the other person cared for them and that's how they fell in love, that's fine, obviously. But we're talking about humor here. That would never be funny. But if it's an accident where there's no tragedy behind it, an accident that can happen to anybody and no one is really hurt, then it can be funny. It can add like an element of Buster Keaton-ness. Is that too old a reference? The old black and white YouTube, look it up, Buster Keaton. Kind of slapstick. That can happen, if groom is trying to be all manly or flexed or fixing something and something falls down and it didn't work out. Again, that could be really funny, especially if, like I say, he's trying to assert something about himself and it's not going as planned. The fourth thing I would say that is fun is quirky habits. Something that the person does. Again, a lot of time this makes it into the love about section. The couple, when they say, here's, and Stacy says, here's what I love about Greg. And if it's one of those weird, quirky things about Greg, a habit that he has, I think of Sex in the City, the guy who leaves his tea bags all over the house. That kind of thing, or I think it's Charlotte really gets bothered by that. That can be funny, actually. We're not going to get into all the fights it starts, but if it's kind of a quirky habit, something that the person does over and over, and it's a little point of friendly, loving friction between them, that can be really funny, especially if other people know this about the person. So you got to use your judgment, but I think quirky habits, and I'm going to qualify all these with the 5 no-goes. So if you're thinking, well, what about this? Yeah, I'm going to get there. But I think that's okay. And then the fifth thing is unique personality traits about the person. Like if they're always wearing an inappropriate Hawaiian t-shirt to even the most formal occasions, and everybody knows this about them because they do it in public, then I think it's okay to make a comment about, and there's Greg once again at this fancy, he's at the proposal, and of course he's wearing his Hawaiian t-shirt, because what else is Greg ever wearing? That's the kind of teasing where it's on the table, it's in plain view, it's in public. Greg knows this, everybody knows this. It's one of those idiosyncrasies of Greg's personality that is really humorous, and so it's okay. Now, if I'm going to have time to talk about the 5 no-goes and show you some story examples, like I'm going to move right into that now, okay? I am seeing some really great stuff in the chat about a groom falling off a scooter, etc. You definitely want to see this. Karen says couples should feel like superstars on their day. No need to mention anything that made her feel insecure. Absolutely. So I want to use that as the segue, Karen. Thank you. Good to see you. Into the no-goes. Really, and this isn't even the guiding principle that I want to leave you with, but we don't want to make anyone feel shame or embarrassment. And these five things, I think, really do veer into that category. First of all, remember how I said at the beginning, if there's some miscommunication between a couple, then it's funny. I think, and these are in no particular order, if you are making someone sound really stupid, really, really maybe unintelligent, or not, like they can't process something, whether it's can't figure out the tip at the restaurant, or I don't know, whatever, something that people would be like, oh my gosh, I think this person is really stupid. And again, that's always, it's like IQ. You can't, that's not an objective thing. No one is truly stupid. No one has truly low IQ. It's much more complicated than that. But I think we know when we're making somebody feel really like stupid, like what is wrong with you. We never want them to feel ashamed. And so that's really important, where miscommunication is one thing where we're in on a joke, but if there's something about their how they met in the first date or the proposal that you're just like, why did that person not think of that? One thing, and I'll tell you this, like in terms of proposal, I've had stories where the groom tells the bride, like, we're going to Disney World, so you need to be in the backyard ready to go, blah blah blah. And she can't wait to go to Disney World. I probably got Disney on the mind because I just saw Karen, but it literally was something like this, and it's happened more than once in my love storytelling, where uh he gets her there and proposes. The whole thing was a ruse to propose, but then there was no trip, which I'm just like, what? Like, she's happy she's getting proposed to, but there never was a Disney World. The whole thing was like just to get everybody at one place at one time. That to me is like the ultimate, like, wow. But I will not say that. That is not something I would say in the story. I wouldn't even tease the groom about that. And there was no trip. What's up? Even if the bride said to me, I can't believe there was no trip. Like, we still have issues about that to this day. I won't say that because that will make the groom feel kind of stupid. Like maybe it was an oversight, like, oh yeah, he really let her down. Right. So that's an example that I mean of, like, if you didn't execute something or think it through that great, don't mention, tell the love story, but don't editorialize in a way that makes the person feel, as Karen said, ashamed, anything less than a superstar. Okay. The other thing that I would say is, if somebody is mean or rude in the love story, whether that's like to a server or I don't know, the first impression. If the first impression of somebody is like, wow, he's a real dick because he, walked over somebody, refused to say sorry. If it's kind of like, oh my gosh, he really is like mean. Like, I don't know if he was having a bad day or what, then again, I would really skate the line. I don't want him to not feel like a superstar, even if it is true that that's how they met, or it makes it into the story somehow that he mistreated somebody or was really rude to a server or was just like a really bad tipper or something like that. First thing she noticed about him is that he leaves $5 for a $200 meal. Like, that is going to make the person feel really bad. And so I'm going to steer clear. I was just going to hit the cutting room floor. That I'm not going to say that kind of thing. So that's something to think about, is like the mean, rude thing. Don't ever make them feel that way, even if it's true. The third thing is, I would stay away from body issues, physical body issues. For example, I used the example of leaving tea bags all over the house, little, habits that are kind of harmless. But if it's like, he has really awful smelling feet, and like his work boots and his socks, they make me gag. Like that stuff, whether it's in the story or the love abouts, if it's him talking about, I don't know, her farts at night or something like that, that's the kind of stuff where I think, like, body function stuff that has like a little bit of shame around it, socially. Again, you can start unpacking, psychologically, should we have these boundaries, etc. We're not arguing whether or not they should be there. We're arguing that they are there. And so there are stigmas, things about, physical stigmatized issues, like I say, stinky feet, or I don't know what it is, really bad breath. Like, you just don't want to, uh, I would just leave that stuff out. Okay. We don't want anyone to feel bad about their body on the wedding day. And I'm not just talking whether that's weight or whether that is, um, like I say, smells or habits around the house. We just don't want to go there. Okay. The fourth thing I would say is habits that are not socially acceptable. So, like I say, quirky habits is one thing, but things that the person might do that would make people go, "You do what around your house?" Right? Like, our houses are personal, private spaces, and sometimes our couple might not have the scruples of, you know, grandma in the front row. This is everybody you know and love. They might tell you something in the comfort of their love story one day that, you think, well, they said it, so it's no holds barred, it's all fair game. I would say no. Again, don't make anyone feel ashamed or embarrassed. Um, and so people do some things in the privacy of their own home, even with their partner, that that they would not want like everybody to know. It's just one of those things where we don't have webcams set up in our house, right? For for a reason. And so there are some things that are not socially acceptable. If somebody just viciously picks their nose all the time and nobody knows that, but at home their partner sure knows it. You just don't like. That's the kind of thing where it's like, it's a not socially acceptable habit. It's not done in polite company. And so don't say it about the person, even if their partner said it. Okay, last one is habits that are potentially destructive. And this is what I mean. What I mean by this is maybe like things around addiction. You would not want to joke about somebody's like incessant drinking, especially if some people in the room think it's a problem. If you were to say, and so, there he is again, hammered in his proposal. If everybody knows that, one of the marriers has a drinking problem and you're joking about it, it is not going to be funny. It's going to be really too touchy. So my thing here is like, if this is something that maybe somebody should go to therapy for, and again, you don't know that, but if when you're reading their answers, you get into territory where you're like, I wonder if this is like a problem that the person has. I'm just telling you, it's not going to be funny. You don't want to be the kind of officiant that's surfacing that kind of thing, whether it's like rage issues. Maybe somebody says something like when she gets behind the wheel, she is absolutely furious at everybody she sees. That's not like funny. Like, so why say it if it's not going to get a laugh, right? And again, I hope to have time to give you a few examples from real stories here of where we're getting close, but it's still funny. And of course, what doesn't appear in the stories is things that I would not say. But that's where I would say those things need to be left out. Okay, so to review, the no-goes are making the person look or feel stupid, making them feel like mean or really rude. Body issues, yes, that includes sex. I mean, the sex stuff is like really obvious. We don't want grandma to know. I had one time where the bride said, "We met on Tinder, and let me tell you, after that night together, I knew I wanted to marry this guy." That was like, oh, it's verging on a little too blue, because of what she meant. I smoothed it out and made it sound romantic without saying like after that night. I mean, and the friends and family were even more inappropriate when I asked them what they love, what they know about their story. A couple of her girlfriends really, really went for the details, and I was like, nope. So that's an example. Body issues, shaming them, making them feel embarrassed about, look or body function or some of those less socially acceptable habits around the house. Don't do that. And then, of course, again, things that might be potentially destructive or problematic for their loved ones, things that maybe are out of control or that they could use some therapy about. And I use the examples of addiction, maybe, or emotional regulation. We don't want to go there. We want to have a bit of a radar for that stuff. Okay, so at the end of this now, let me leave you with this idea, and I love that Paul said this. I I really can't believe he hit on it. I believe it was Paul. What I was going to say at the end here is, remember, you are in control of the story. I do say this in the chorus. You're the one with the mic. Uh, and that means that the story is very one-sided at the same time, right? We have this beautiful privilege of being the one to narrate the story. And I talk in stage 4 of the course, you are the one in charge of telling it. So tell it well. Be in control of the narrative, using the stuff they gave you. Of course, you're not making anything up. But at the same time, because you're holding the mic, you need to remember that you are steering the story. You're making them feel a certain way. You have that incredible power. And so that this really comes down to the crux of the matter. And here's what I wanted to leave with you. I think kind of one of the fail-safe criteria that encompasses all the 10 things that I read through today was, if the person in the moment would feel like they need to defend themselves against what you just said, then you went too far. Okay. So, using the example off the top of the opening remarks, like the groom doesn't feel like he needs to defend himself against that. Or when you're talking about miscommunication, the marriers aren't going to need to defend themselves because it's coming out in the story that they just miscommunicated. Or if it's like, he wears his Hawaiian shirt everywhere, everybody knows he's fine with it. He's comfortable with it. Everybody knows that. Those kinds of things, the 5 that I read off the top, quirky personality things, miscommunication. Naomi doesn't feel like she needs to defend herself against knocking over a glass, a cup of Sprite, right? That doesn't put a person into defensive mode. But the other 5 things, maybe, like I say, it's a rage issue, or a body, something that's socially unacceptable, or they tipped really terribly, or, when you're not making them feel like a superstar and they feel defensive, they're going to be hurt by it. You might have to answer to the couple later, but that's where the friends and family are also going to pick up on that. So you guys are superstars because in the chat, you talked about how, you've got the mic. I've seen so many great comments here. And you need to make your couple feel like superstars, but you can still tease them. You can still have that kind of fun, but you want to be teasing up. You want to be talking about how great they are, and they might have had like less than glorious moments in their love story. But if it's quirky, and if it's idiosyncratic, and if it's miscommunication, what did we say? Harmless accidents, mistakes that can happen to anybody, then I think it's funny, and you're gonna stay in the proper lane without ever veering over the line. Let me show you a couple of examples here. We've just got a few minutes left before we hit the top of the hour. I will swing over now to, this is a real love story that I wrote. Which one are we looking at here? Emily and Turner. So this is a couple love story of some New Brunswickers here. And this is interesting because he went into, some impressions of her. Turner realizes Emily may or may not. So this is where they first met. They're going on a drive. It's a little awkward on first dates. First dates often are. They're both shy. They kind of talked about how that first drive was a bit rough, and that some of the stories she started to tell him on the drive, and he's a very quiet and reserved guy, he started to realize that she might not quite be that innocent angel, but she's also smart and funny. And then, she sees that he isn't just a shy guy, he's sweet and kind. I thought this was, again, it's getting close to, I'm not getting into specifics. It's definitely coming out of what she has told him. So I'm not like making any innuendos or insinuating they did something. But the assumptions they had about each other seem to be off, but in a good way. I always talk in the course about how you want to emphasize their differences and what they're learning about each other. So this is kind of that ultimate 1-2 punch in that regard, where he thought she was this angel. He put her on a pedestal. This is up here, right? So it's kind of like the context is he just thinks she's fantastic and angelic. And then, of course, as they get talking, he realizes, oh, maybe she's not. But she's smart and she's funny as well. And he's shy, blah, blah, blah. So I also wanted to go down here where you say Emily, they start dating. This is the proposal. Emily's on edge today, having just returned from the hospital where she's undergone her second sweep. She's cranky, she's uncomfortable, more than ready for Emerson's arrival. That's their little son. They really made a lot about this, about how in the proposal she was, and she used the B word. She was like, I was, he didn't. But this is where, like, you want to mollify that a little bit. You want to smooth that over. She's cranky. She's uncomfortable. Don't go for the juggler. Don't make her sound unreasonable or super out of control. I mean, hey, my wife's been pregnant twice. I've seen this. The sweeps. It's really unpleasant. I told everybody who sympathizes with Emily here when you say it in a certain way. So that's an example of you can say it without really overemphasizing if somebody in the couple did. If he said it, you'd be like, wow, I think that's out of bounds. She said it about herself. You still want to steer clear of making it too much. Here in the love abouts, I love how genuine and kind Turner is. I love that he can make me laugh even when I want to be cranky. So this happens a lot in the love abouts where the person says it about themselves. That I find that totally fine. It's usually endearing. But sometimes the couple will say it where, he might say, and it's really funny what happens. I love her even when she's a little cranky. I think if you're mitigating it, if you're making it sound a little bit, then it's fine. You're not kind of, like I say, going for the jugular or really exacerbating some of the feelings, but you always want to use your judgment on not making the person feel bad. It's real life, but you're not shaming them in any way. Let me show you Crystal and Peter now, another love story I wrote. You'll see that I always say the way all great 21st century fairy tales begin. She swipes right. A lot of people ask me, Mark, what's your opening line for when they meet on an app? There you go. That's free from today. Our love story begins the way all the great, and the other one I just said, the way all the great New Brunswick fairy tales begin on Grand Manan. And people from Grand Manan loved that. It was whooping and hollering. It was kind of like hometown pride. That's an island right here on the Atlantic. And so here, the way all great 21st century fairy tales began, when she swipes right. That's kind of how I ease into love stories where there's a nap. But look here, in the same week they start talking, Peter proposes the idea that they meet up for drinks, not as a date, just to hang out. Crystal, being conscious, suggests a video chat first, just to make sure Peter isn't, quote, a psycho. Again, I love that kind of stuff where she has this real defensiveness that he might be a psycho. It comes up later where again, it's complimentary where she says, hey, he's not a psycho after all. Okay. Then they have a pretty disastrous hot air balloon ride, which, they told me about it, but it really did sound kind of traumatic where the hot air balloon almost crashed in the proposal. So how do you make that funny when it was really, she's like, I'm never getting a hot air balloon again. But so I described it. The balloon starts to descend. The wind shifts. Ulrich, he's their driver, starts to look worried. And then they're being dragged through cornfields, bouncing off trees, narrowly missing power lines. Peter gets to show that he's husband material right away. Again, making him feel like a superstar here. So thank you, Karen, for that context. I love that. He grips the basket with his legs. He's holding his new fiancé with strong arms because she did say yes. Like up there, this is literally, she said yes. A storm came and they almost died. He's telling her everything's going to be okay. She starts screaming at him for getting them killed. Yes, she did that. But again, nobody got hurt, right? And he's showing his powerfulness here as a fiance, husband material. She's saying they're going to leave Penelope an orphan. That's the little daughter. But Ulrich gets it under control, and finally they land in one piece, alive and engaged. And again, that got some applause and that kind of thing. So it really went over well. One more quick example here, maybe as I switch over. It was Megan and Tyler. You'll see here how they're getting into, Tyler is surprised to see Megan getting into her. Oh, this is really funny, where they have their date, then they're getting into their respective cars. And you see here how she is getting into her really nice car. A truck, actually. But Tyler is surprised. So Tyler's surprised to see Megan getting into a large, shiny, newer model Dodge Ram pickup. Impressive. Megan is surprised to see Tyler getting into his white, featureless cube van. And that's how I was kind of delivering it. And they were laughing. It looks rented. It's the kind of van that gives a young woman pause again. And he was feeling like, oh, like people know this about their story. It was hilarious. But it's one of those things where like he had a creepy kind of one of those creepy kidnap vans that your parents warn you about. And she said that, but again, it's kind of a miscommunication or circumstance that where he had to do this van for a job, and that's part of the context. But this is miscommunication or misunderstanding between two people, and that's what makes it so funny. Tyler catches Megan looking at him with that expression. Is it concern or sadness? Are his chances blown because of the creepy van he brought on a first date? And what he doesn't know is Megan's expression has nothing to do with the van. She's just sad and confused, but it's that Tyler didn't go in for the first kiss. Okay, so to see how instantly I turn it from like, he thinks she's looking at him because she's creeped out by the van. Really, she's looking at him with disappointment because she wanted to kiss him so badly. So you got to kind of twist on the dime, try to close that deal as quickly as you can. And that is essentially how you are going to always make sure you are in the lane of keeping things funny, never going into embarrassing or shameful territory. Never make the person feel defensive, like they need to defend themselves from something. And as Karen said so well, thank you, Karen, make them feel like superstars. And if you are going to do any teasing, tease up, never down. Don't make people feel bad or push them down or derogatory or denigrating. It should be the other way. Look at how great this person looks. That, you know, look at how wonderful they are. Gentle teasing can be done in a very constructive and positive way as well. All right, that you guys were having your own clinic in the chat. I absolutely love it. Thank you for participating in that way. And oh my gosh, good to see you here, my man from Hawaii. Good to see you, Moe. I'm thrilled that you dropped in. Hopefully that was helpful. It has been the full hour. I am seeing people share. Groom fell off a scooter, busted his jaw before the engagement photos. Hey, accident that can happen. Some during the ceremony, I said sometimes marriage seems effortless. Other times it feels hard, like falling off a scooter. That I love that. See, so you're like gently teasing the person for falling off a scooter. That can happen to anybody. That definitely meets my criteria of like, hey, you know what? Dude was on a scooter, had an accident, no permanent damage, that kind of thing. And so just remember these 5 and 5. I think you get it. Ultimately, what we're doing is trying to get to the point, trying to make sure that we are facilitating this great atmosphere, having fun doing it. People love to laugh, but we don't want to be laughing at anything. We want to be laughing with everything and everyone, okay? Some of you are just saying hello. You have to catch us on the replay. If you want to jump in and join Unboring Wedding Academy, like so many of these amazing people, unboringweddingacademy.com is the website where you'll get your email invite and you can join. I am thrilled to do that. And of course, we have a pro course. We have a website service. Unboring Wedding Academy is the home of the Love Story Caster, which will write your couple's love story tastefully in minutes. It has kind of revolutionized those of us who are members inside the course. I really appreciate all of you, those of you who are members, those of you who are not, those of you who are officiating for the first time, those of you who officiated hundreds of times. I absolutely love the wedding officiant community. I am thrilled to be a part of it with you. So thank you very much. Jeff says, thank you for sharing your experiences and comments. You have all added everyone to boost my confidence. Next week, I will join you as performing my first officiating experience. That's awesome, Jeff. All the best to you. I'm here for all of you. Thanks for joining today, and we'll see you next week for another episode of the Unboring Wedding Show Live. Have a great one, everyone. Marry on.